Okay, here we are. And our goal for this video is just starting with part 6 and going all the way through 10. And we're going to do them in order, but again, they're not in order of complexity. The second one we do today, which is number 7, is actually the hardest one on the entire sheet, either side. And it requires an entirely different tool that we haven't used before. I don't think I've even pointed to it, but yeah, here we go. All right, so again, let's go ahead and start a new default part file from the dropdown. And oh, some news you can use if this takes a little eventually gets there. A problem a lot of people are having, which is not a problem at all. When you load up Inventor, there will be your recent files that you've used. Usually it will be almost all the ones that you've done on that computer and recently, which might have you worried if you only see like 8 of them and they're all not there. That's because either you did them on a different computer or whatever. The computer doesn't think you want access to they're long enough ago that you don't want them. This is not the main place to get files from. This is just the computer or the software being like trying to be convenient. Where everything is saved, if you just go File and Open, it will load up the Finder window eventually. I promise eventually. Did I not click it? And doop. It's one of these and open. Okay. And there, yours will all be in your documents folder. So it's not an issue for our subfolders, but this is where all your files are going to be, is just in the Finder. All right. So like I said, we're going to start a new part file, and we're going to start with number 6. Number 6, pretty straightforward. We're going to start with the wedge. This is a lot like, it's almost identical to part 3. Sorry, I forgot people were actually using the green sheets. Okay, so I'll keep going. Grab a green sheet. That's fine. So part 6 is a lot like part 3. We're going to start with the main sort of wedge. And so our wedge is, the total height is 5. Across the top is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 this way across the top. Across the bottom is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's 9 this way, 5 this way, 4 this way, and then we just connect 9, 5, 4 and extrude 5. So starting a sketch, if we're drawing from the front, we want to start with the XY plane. And let's get some lines. And one goes that way. Well, remember, with line tool, it's always line dimension, and so on. So it's 9 this way. Line tool. Dimension. 5 this way. Another line that goes here. Dimension. This one needs to be 4. And a line to close it off. And finish sketch. And I can zoom out a bit and extrude. Remember, when you're extruding, always be looking at it from a 3D angle, like a corner. And go like this. Oh, it's not 3, sorry, it's 5. Edit feature. And it should be 5. Nope, not 56. 5. Okay, so we have our first chunk. And the way we're going to cut out this ledge is by, on the left side, which is this side, we're going to make this shape, a 3x3 rectangle, and then cut extrude all of it. Okay, so we need to look at the face left, excuse me, the left face. And we'll start a sketch on this face and get a rectangle that snaps to the top corner. And we'll just make it look about right. Okay, you can see where we're sketching. We're sketching on this face. And when you are sketching, as long as you know where you are, you should be looking at it straight on, two-dimensionally. And we'll make this 3 tall and 3 wide. Now we can finish sketch and extrude. Choose that, switch it to cut, and do through all. And hit OK. And that is part 6. All right, so part 7. The way we're going to do part 7 is we're going to use what's called the loft tool, which is right here behind all my special buttons. Okay, obviously we're going to start with a new part. And I'll show you just a real basic use of loft. So the way loft works is you need 2 different sketches that are separated. And instead of extruding, it sort of converts one into the other. So let's say I have a rectangle that is, I don't know, 1 by 1. And then I do finish sketch. But I need to, this is one of the rare times where you're going to have 2 unconsumed sketches. Usually it's make a sketch, extrude, make a sketch, extrude, etc. But we need an offset plane, a work plane offset from an existing plane. And the plane we want to be offset from is from the origin plane we started on, which is the XY plane. Okay. And the distance we want to be offset is, well, it depends how big a thing you want. Let's say we want to draw on the, draw 2 inches away. So you may have not seen this before, but this folder over here in the model browser or the browser bar that says origin, if you click on that plus sign, you will get access to the origin planes, the XY, XZ, and YZ planes that are all around the origin point. You'll get a link to the origin axes, the X, Y, and Z axes, and then the center point of the universe. And those are useful, like in this case, where we're sketching on the origin XY, and we want to sketch out in space on something. Normally, when you make a new sketch plane, you just click on the face you want to sketch on, but we need this out away from where we started before anything exists. So this work plane that we're working on, we can now sketch on this work plane. You don't need to follow this. This is just an example. I'll tell you when we're starting the part. If you are following, great. But so now we are sketching away from it. And then whatever sketch we make here, we can then loft one into the other. Okay, so let's say, you see here I have 2 sketches. These are both like pieces of paper that are out in space. I'm going to click loft as this example of using the loft tool. Click on one of the sketches and then click on the other sketch. And it does like an extrusion that sort of morphs the shape into the other. Okay, if you have a more complex shape, like say polygon of 6 sides is fine. And we did finish sketch. And we did loft of this and this. And there we go. So it does like an extrusion blending. Okay. Some important things to note are, so this yellow square right here is just the visualization of the work plane we created. It's not actually part of the shape. In fact, when we make one, we're actually going to turn off the visibility of it because it's just like the origin plane. It's just a thing to show you what you're looking at. Okay, so the key is we're going to make 2 sketches, 2 work planes, well, sketch on an origin plane and then make a new work plane that's offset. And the amount that it needs to be offset is, you know, what you saw, how far is it going to do it? How far away, like essentially the height, depending. Okay, so I'm gonna start and we're gonna look at how this is done with the part 7. And let's start a sketch. You know what takes too long is how long those, what you call it, take. Okay, so keyboard, pop-up, fade, pop-up, fade, delay. Let's make that. Why does that take so long? That's not, hold on. I guess I could finish this on my own. Pop-up font. Nope. Okay, never mind. I'll fix that later. Okay, so looking at part 7, the way we're actually going to do this is we're going to make 2 sketches like I showed in the example. One of them is going to be the front, which looks a lot like part J. It's just a sketch with lines. And then we're going to make a new work plane that is 4 inches behind it. And that's where we're going to draw the back as a different sketch. So this is all before we've done any extrusion. We're going to have 2 sketches that are the distance of the front and the back, and then we'll loft one into the other. And as far as I know, there isn't really another way to make this one, at least the way that it looks. That is to say, correctly. Okay, so like I said, the first sketch, the easy part is, and you know what? The front and back are essentially the same, except this top part. These 2 top lines in the back are 3. The 2 top lines are 1 in the front. And they're essentially the same. It actually, I think it makes more sense if we draw the back first. No, we'll just put the sketch plane behind it. It's fine. Okay, so we're going to draw the front, which is a lot like part J, where it, in this case, it's 10 across, 5 tall, 1 in, and we'll start with that before we do this sort of thing. So 10, 5, and 1 around the outside. Okay, so we'll start our sketch. This is from scratch. We'll start our sketch on the XY plane. And of course, mine says sketch 2. In fact, will it even let me do that? Anyway, so we need a line that goes across the bottom. Keyboard D for keyboard D for dimension. Nope, it's not. D for dimension, 10 across the bottom. L for line. Straight up, and dimension that to 5. And we need another line over here. And if you're making a line and know you're going to dimension it, you can see about halfway up the line I'm making, there's a text box that right now it says 5.817, which you might not be able to read it from across the room. But if that's highlighted, I can just type in the number that I want, and it will make it and dimension it all in one step, which is nice. Okay, and this way I need 1 that way. And I need a new line that goes this way. And the old-fashioned way is this way. All right. So we need a place to connect. Yeah, question? What's up? The small lines across the top are 1 inch in. All right. So just like before, anytime you draw a sloped line, you don't need to know the angle. You don't need to know the length. All you need to know is where it starts and where it ends. As long as you know those 2 points, we can draw it, just connecting. And in this case, the place they connect is in the center left to right, but 1 above the bottom. And the way you could do this is by drawing a line and going like that, and then dimensioning the location of this point to like 1, and the dimension of this point this way halfway is 5. That would work, but it's not really, it's sort of the shortcut, but not in a good way. Like it's the amateur way to do it. Pro way is we're going to create a working point or work point, and we're going to put it roughly where we want it. Okay, now we have this thing right here that we can dimension, and we can dimension its location. The distance from here to here is 5. And the distance from here to here is 1. Okay, and you can see it's turned blue or black or whatever shade that is. And that point is now where the lines connect. So we can regular line from here to here, and if it lets you continue, go there to there. And there we go. I wonder if, let me see if I can make this look a little better. Sketch. Never mind. All right, this is the front of the shape, the front of part 7. We're going to finish sketch. Zoom out a little bit. And what we have, like I said, is this front. We've just drawn this and connected. What we need to draw is the back. What we need to draw is the back, which is, again, very similar, but it needs to be 4 inches behind. So 4 inches behind here, we need to make a work plane that's just sort of floating in space. And that's where we will draw the back shape, which is a little bit more like that. But the key is the distance, and it's 4 inches that way, which I think will be negative because we're looking at the front. Okay, so what we're going to do is get an offset plane or offset from plane. And the plane we want to offset from is the origin plane we started from. So if you have this over here, you can click on the plus sign next to origin and find the plane that we started on, which was the XY plane. Okay, and now it's showing you, you can click and drag if you want, but if we want it to be behind, you can see it becomes a negative number, which is what we want. We want it to be -4. And the reason why we want it to be -4 is that's the distance between the front and back. Okay, so we've created our piece of paper, sort of, back here. Now we want to draw on it. Okay, you want to see that step again? Offset from plane, and then in over here in the browser bar, this thing over here, where it says origin, on the, over here, do you see? And click on the plus sign for origin. No. Look at where my mouse is. Are you looking at my screen? That little plus sign next to origin. The drop down. Click on the little plus, and then click on XY. XY plane. There you go. And then type -4. -4. You don't need to drag. All you need to do is from scratch, you go click on the drop down here, offset from a plane, and then over in the browser bar, find the XY plane, and then type -4. All right, so we have our sketch, we have our plane, our work plane back here, but we're not sketching yet. So we're going to start a sketch, and you can either mouse over the work plane one that you made, or you can choose it from the browser bar. Either is fine. I'll do it here because it's a good habit. When it gets crowded, there's a lot more going on. Okay, so I've made my new, take a step back. Okay, I only have that going, and I'm gonna start a sketch. This is what I did a second ago. I lost where it was. Sketching here, and we are now sketching 4 inches behind our front, aka the back. And first thing we're going to do is turn off the visibility of work plane 1. Work plane 1 is just this yellow or would-be yellow square rectangle that indicates that there's something there in space, and we don't need that square. So we're going to right-click and uncheck visibility. Okay. So here's where we're going to draw the back. We're going to draw the back on this face. Now, the thing is, we need it to line up perfectly with the front. Okay. The bottom of the front or the bottom of the back needs to be exactly lined up with the bottom of the front so that it's flat. And the same thing for the sides. Now, we know that when we started the front, we started it from the origin plane, or excuse me, the origin point of, where we started. So we could just do the same thing, but there's a shortcut. And that shortcut is project geometry, not project geometry, project geometry as in like a projector or projectile. Okay. And we want to project the things that are the same for both, which are this line, and this line. Okay. So it brings over those 3 lines because I clicked on them each, and they line up perfectly because the 2 planes are parallel. They line up perfectly. They're the correct length, size, and location. And that's a lot easier. It's perfect and easier. It's hard to beat it. Okay, so those 3, the 2 sides and the bottom are the same on both. So we can just project those over. And now we just have 3-inch lines that come in this way, which I'm looking at a different corner, but they're 3-inch that way. And they connect to a point that is centered and 2 down. So we'll do another work plane that's right on the center point right here, but 2 inches down, and then we can connect over. And once we have 2 closed loops, we can loft the 2 closed loops together. Okay, so we are sketching here. We still have the we're still in sketch mode, and we just need to draw the lines. This is one of the rare times where I will well, you know what you could actually do, it might be easier, is to turn off the visibility on your first sketch. You can right click visibility, and now we can look at it straight on without, having the front sketch in the way. So yours is probably called sketch 1. I did that example, so it changed mine to 2. But if you right click visibility, now we can draw the back, which is from this top corner. It's 3 inches in each way. Did I get rid of my click? I want my click back. That's more important. I'm sorry. Let's close this. I really do think this is worth our time to have this tool up. I mean, maybe you can figure this out on your for the next 2 seconds. 3 inches from each side, and the center point is just like before. We'll do a work point, and is it working? Yeah, there we go, something. All right, so we're drawing the back. It needs to be 3 this way, and we'll get a line here. Dimension it. The 3 this way. And again, I'm so sorry. I don't know why all of the issues are happening. Oh my God. All right, well. This is, I really do want this thing to work. Maybe I need to restart my computer. I don't know. Not right now. What's up? Where's the what? The other work point? I'll show you in a second. All right, well, I'll show you right now. So we're drawing on the back, and we need a point to connect our sloped lines to. And so that's going to be this point, and this point is 2 inches down from the top edge, and same like before, 5 from the side. And I don't want that. Okay, so dimension tool, the distance from this point to the top, which don't choose the endpoint there, because then you might get like the distance, the diagonal distance. It's the distance between here and this top edge. So you can just get, click on one of those lines and it will let you dimension how far to the bottom or how far from the top, which if you do a little math, it's 5 tall. And we wanted 2 from the top, which is the same thing as 3 from the bottom. Either of those will work. The second way is probably a little easier to click. And then the other direction we need to dimension is the distance between the center point and either side, either of which will be a distance of 5. Now we have our point right there. Let's get a line from there into there and then connect over. Okay, and we can finish sketch. And let's turn the visibility of our first sketch back on. Right check visibility. And now we have 2 sketches. Okay, and they are 4 inches apart. And all we need to do is go to the loft tool, which is right next to revolve probably, and click on it. And then click on one of the sketches and then the other sketch. And hit OK. And there is part 7. This is getting frustrating. Oh, well. Okay. So let's keep going. If that was complicated, that's fine. You can save it for when you loft it. And use the loft tool, which there you go. And then click on one of the sketches and then the other one. Like the the line. Yeah, like that and like that. Click on one and then click on the other. There you go. Hit OK. All right, so the next one we do is 8, because that comes after 7. And 8, we are going to do, this is kind of close to number 6. We actually are going to start out with like this wedge that's this shape and extrude it across. And then we'll deal with this front corner, which might be a little tricky if you're not sort of thinking 3D yet. And our first sketch is going to be 5 across the bottom, 6 up the back, 2 up the front, and then connect. So 6, 5, 2, and extrude all the way across, which I think is 8. So 6, 5, 2. And this is actually one of the few times that I'm going to start sketching from the plane that corresponds with right, because if you saw where we were sketching, we're sketching on the right. This doesn't really matter, especially when we are on super simple shapes that aren't going to be part of an assembly. And even then you can change things. But just so you know what's happening and why I'm doing things, I'm going to start a new sketch on the, in this case, YZ or YZ if you are from other Anglophone nations. And so now we're sketching on the face called right, and our shape will go this direction, a distance of 5. This is going to be the bottom of the right side. Well, everything's the right side now. And another line that goes up, which will be the back when we're done. Dimension to 6, and dimension the front, or a line going up the front, distance of 2, and then just a line connecting. I think those are dimensions, all right? It looks a little weird. All right, so this is our basic right side of the shape, and let's extrude it. And it doesn't really matter which direction you extrude it. Again, we're sort of in space. There's no up in space. Technically, we drew on the right face and it would extrude that way, but it doesn't matter even a little bit. And it is 8 across. Okay, so the only other thing we need to do is this cutout here. Now, there's a few ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that doesn't work at all, and then I'll show you 2 ways that do work. The way you might think is to put a sketch here, draw our line, the shape you want it to be, finish sketch, and extrude, choose what we drew, switch it to cut, and so on. But clearly that's not what we want. Because extrusions go parallel, perpendicular to whatever plane they're on, it's going to cut in that way. So the 2 ways are, one is putting a sketch on the bottom. Just a second. One is putting a sketch on, 2 inches up on the front. One is putting a sketch on the bottom, like here, in which case the dimensions would each be, the distance here is 3 back in either direction. So we would dimension the distance between this endpoint and the corner, and this endpoint and the corner. And we would finish sketch and extrude, E for extrude, and then choose the shape we made and switch it to cut and through all. Please put the food away. Make sure the trash gets the trash can, but also put the food away. And that would work. 8. The width is 8. Okay, this works. Go ahead and do that. Another way that I would say is probably a little, well, if you figured out how to do that part underneath, good on you. It's a little tricky. And it's fine. That's the way I usually teach it. But we could also do, I think we did this before, a chamfer. And the chamfer is a lot. Do put the food away. Okay, chamfer, you can kind of see from the little pictograph there, a little icon. What it does is it cuts off the corner. We did this before. And there's actually a sketch chamfer too, but that makes everything funky. It's easier to do it here in a part file. And of the 3 types, we have distance, which means the same distance in both directions. And we did this before, distance and angle, and 2 different distances. Because our cut in is going to be the same amount in both directions. Remember, it was 3 in this way and 3 in this way. We can use this first type. Okay, which would cut off this way, and the dimension is 3. Okay, the dimension that you actually type in is the distance from the corner of how much you want to cut in. And there you go. That is part 8 with the last step done 2 ways. All right, and 9 and 10, let's knock out. They're pretty easy, at least for the curved ones. All right, So this one we're going to do as a big chunk and then cut away what we don't want. The big chunk is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is 9 wide. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 tall and 4 deep. Okay. We'll worry about the other part features shortly. Let's worry about this now. New part file, sketch, and rectangle, which mine still says polygon, rectangle. And click here and dimension that to 9 wide, 6 tall, and finish sketch. Extrude, and extrude it 4. Okay, and there are 2 other part features. One is this rounded over corner here, which we're going to use the other thing that's like chamfer, the fillet tool. Okay, you might think it says fillet, it does not, it says fillet. And a fillet is a rounded over edge. Again, you can see from the pictograph there. And the way it works is you get the tool and then choose the edge you want to round over. The edge we want to round over is this side here. And the dimension we want, the dimension, you don't have to click and drag it, but I'm just showing you what dimension we're actually putting in. The dimension is how far, or rather what the radius is of this arc. Okay, and the way we're going to decide or figure out what the radius is of this arc is, if you'll notice, there's a tiny little cross here on your green sheet and on the screen that is actually the center mark of this arc. Okay, this isn't part of the part feature. It's just a little hint there to let you know that the radius of this arc is 2. It is a 2-inch radius, which obviously it's not a complete circle, which would look like that. It's not a complete circle, it's just rounded over. And the distance from the center point in both directions is 2. And that's what we're going to type in here, 2. Okay, and there's your baby's first fillet. Okay, and the other part, the way we're going to do this is actually draw a complete circle, which, hello, thank you. Actually draw a complete circle and then cut out the part that we draw. Okay, so we are going to draw, with this as our center point, a circle that's like this. And then when we cut, we will cut this. Now, let's just go ahead and sketch it, and I'll show you why we're doing what. Okay, we are going to get a circle here and make it like that. And then when we go to extrude, cut this. The reason why we aren't doing an arc is arc gets kind of funky when you have different types. First of all, there's 3-point arc, which clearly we don't want this to, anyway. The point is circles and rectangles are always closed loop. They're always constrained to their basic shape. And it just makes it easier for things when you just want it and when it's pretty simple. So we're going to get a circle and snap it to this top corner, the actual green dot, and make it about right. And let's see what our dimension is. The dimension is, there's no center mark. There may have been a center mark at one point, but through a decade of photocopying, which the current green sheets you're holding are probably only about 5 generations of photocopying. So at least we've stalled the, whatever it's called, depreciation. If you were to extend this edge out and follow that grid line this way and do the same thing this way, you can see that the center where they intersect is this, and it's 1, 2, 3 from that way and 1, 2, 3 from that way. So our radius from our center point going this way is 3. Now, arcs are dimensioned by radius, circles are dimensioned by diameter. And if you forget, you can just, when we go to dimension the size of the circle, you can see it's dimensioning the entire distance across. And if we want this radius to be 3, we need to make its dimension 6. Okay, so we're looking for a 6-inch diameter. Okay, and then we can finish sketch, extrude, and we just want to extrude this. If you extrude this, it doesn't change anything. It's the same. Obviously, we need to cut, and through all is nice. But we really only need to cut the sort of wedge here. So extrude, choose the part we made, switch it to cut extrude, and then through all is good as well. And hit OK. And there you go. That's part 9. What's up? Oh, have we not dimensioned circles yet? Awesome. All right, so for a circle, all you need to do is click on the edge on the circle. First click on the circle, second click up here. Dimension is 6. Okay, finish sketch, extrude, choose what we want to cut, switch it to cut, and go through all. And hit OK. Okay, that's part 9. One more for today. Looks like most people are being pretty productive. Makes me happy. We'll come around and check things that you have after this. Okay, part 10 is very similar to part 9, except easier. All we're going to do, is yours turning on? Okay. All we're going to do is a big block and then a semicircle in the middle. This is about a 1-second thing. And, oh wait, let's get some dimensions. Our block is, looks like 6, I'm guessing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tall and 10 wide, 4 deep. 6 by 10 by 4. So start a sketch on the XY plane because why not? And you get a rectangle, snap to origin because why not? And dimension width to 10, height to 6, and finish sketch and extrude. And extrude it a distance of 4. Okay, and the only other part feature is this cutaway, which I want to make sure that we are using the correct terms. Everything over here is a part feature. This one from part 9, we made an extrusion. That's our first part feature. The fillet was our second part feature, and the cut extrusion was our third part feature. And if you do right click, edit feature, that's what you're adjusting. Okay, the extrusion, the fillet, the whatever. If you do right click, edit sketch, you're editing the sketch that is used by that feature. And you can always see by clicking the drop down next to whatever that sketch was consumed. It is a consumed sketch, which if you try to extrude here, I think it'll probably give me an error. Oh, it forces me to sketch, so never mind. And, oh wait, where are we? We are on part 10. And so we're just going to sketch on the front. And from our top center point, again, we can just make a full circle. Again, with a diameter of 6. And then just cut away this lower part, cut all the way through all. So we'll sketch on the front. Hit a circle, find the exact center point, the green snap. First click, second click out in space. So long as you don't have your second click all the way exactly on the corner, it's fine. Generally making things look about right is what you want, but most of the time, as long as you don't snap, it will let you switch it. And the size we want is 6 diameter. whether you started small or big. And we got a diameter of 6 because we can see it's 3 this way, 3 this way, 3 this way, which is actually the way that we know this is a center point. Well, that and these extension lines, which I can't wait until we get into dimensioning. It's way more fun than it sounds. Or I should say, technical drawings. So that's where we got our distance of 6. And let's finish sketch, extrude, choose. I mean, we could choose the whole thing, but we'll just choose this because that's all we need to deal with. And we'll switch it to cut. And yes, a distance of 4 is fine. A distance of 4,000 is fine. But the pro way is just through all. That way, if anything changes, it's fine. And hit OK. And that is part 10. And the easiest way to show them is to go to View and click on Arrange. And there's a couple options for arrange: horizontal and vertical, obviously. But tile, I think tile is the default, or arrange, but tiling. This is the easy way to show me several parts that I'm checking. If you have them in your recents, which if you didn't see, the tabs down here have all the files I have open, which are parts, the ones we did today, 6 through 10. But there's another tab down here called Home, and that's where it starts when you come in. And if your only parts that you've done, the ones I need to check, are on your home screen, your recents, you can just go to grid view and I can grade them from here. I can actually catch missed dimensions from pretty far. Okay, so like I said, I'll come around and check. No, that's not what I want. I want. Oh, why can't I make things work correctly? Just a quick look at where we're going. I've got due dates spread out like this, which actually is probably more than sufficient. We did 6 through 10 today. I don't want to say done by 6 through 10 by then. I'm happy with these due dates. I'll put in, the really only thing that matters is if you don't have them done by then, we put in zeros, and then it's on you to get back to me. Okay, but other than that, get it done. I'll come around and check things right